This is part 3 of the World War III series. The first video explores prophecies regarding World War III, while the second video delves into the accounts of time travelers where World War III is a significant event in their history. In this video, I will discuss the conspiracy theories surrounding the initiation of World War III as a means to establish the New World Order. Let's start first with Albert Pike's letter addressed to Giuseppe Mazzini. For a brief period, this letter was exhibited at the British Museum Library in London and was transcribed by William Guy Carr, a former intelligence officer in the Royal Canadian Navy and author of Pawns in a Game, published in 1958. Regrettably, the current location of this letter is unknown, presumably having been removed and concealed. Albert Pike, 1809 to 1891, was a captain for the U.S. Army during the American War and who was also a high-ranking Freemason. In a letter dated August 15, 1871, addressed to his Italian friend, politician Giuseppe Mazzini, who was also a Freemason, Pike described 3 events that were seen as necessary to bring about the One World Order. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. The Third World War must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. In brief, World War I aimed to dismantle the monarchy in Russia and establish a communist state, while World War II sought to create an independent state of Israel in Palestine. As for World War III, it is anticipated to be a conflict between Israel, along with its presumed allies, the USA and NATO, against the Muslim Arab world and their allies, Russia and China. An extension of this concept suggests that in this final World War III, the victors would be Muslims, Russia, and China, rather than the USA and its allies. The immense devastation caused by this war would prompt the entire world to collectively agree that such catastrophic international conflicts must never be allowed to happen again. As a result, nations would willingly surrender their military power to a centralized one-world government, which would only maintain a small local police militia force to ensure security at the country level. In addition to the political transformation, the Illuminati also aimed to establish a one-world religion, known as Luciferianism, although they may use a less controversial name to facilitate wider acceptance among the masses. Support for this idea comes from Wesley Clark, a former U.S. 4-star Army general, in his 2007 memoir titled A Time to Lead, For Duty, Honor and Country. In the book, Clark recounts 2 visits he made to the Pentagon following the September 11 terrorist attacks. During his first visit, a senior general informed him that the decision had been made to attack Iraq, even though this senior general had no understanding of the reasons behind it, as there was no indication of any connection between Saddam Hussein, Iraq, and the 9/11 incident. 6 weeks later, when Clark inquired about the progress of the plan, the same general revealed a memo from the office of the Secretary of Defense at the time, Donald Rumsfeld. This memo outlined a strategy to target 7 countries within 5 years, starting with Iraq, followed by Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and ultimately ending with Iran. While you, as a viewer, may consider that this sequence of events has not yet unfolded, the reason for this delay is that the United States encountered difficulties in implementing the plan due to the veto powers held by Russia and China in the United Nations Security Council. When considering the timeline for the unfolding of this plan, it is also worth drawing attention to Deagel's 2025 forecast, which, although not explicitly indicating that its forecasts are based on a potential World War III, appears relevant given the earlier discussion. The Deagel Corporation functions as a minor branch of U.S. military intelligence, being one of the many secretive organizations that collect data for high-level decision-making purposes and prepare confidential briefing documents for agencies such as the National Security Agency, the United Nations, and the World Bank. Its founder had connections as a military contractor and sources well-positioned within the deep state. In their 2025 forecast report, which was prepared in 2014, Deagel forecasted significant global population declines, particularly in Western and developed countries. For instance, the UK is projected to be the hardest hit, experiencing a decline of up to 77%. The USA is predicted to lose 2/3 of its population, Australia 1/3, and Japan 20%. China, Russia, India, most of Asia, and South America are forecasted to remain unaffected. To comprehend the severity of these projections, it is worth comparing them to historical events. World War II caused the deaths of 6% to 9% of the world population. The Mongolian invasion led by Genghis Khan in the 12th century resulted in a reduction of Earth's population by 11%, and the bubonic plague, considered the worst pandemic in history, caused a decline of approximately 50% of Europe's population. You might be curious about how the Deagel Corporation obtains this data. While they have mentioned that these statistics are derived from the likelihood of mass migration and potential suicides resulting from anticipated economic crises in Western countries, there are speculations that the specificity of the data suggests an alternative source, specifically, remote viewing, which involves perceiving future events using psychic vision. However, I will talk about remote viewing in a separate video in the future and will not go into further details here. World War III is utilized as a pretext to facilitate the implementation of the New World Order, which involves establishing a global socialist government led by a single world leader and a privileged ruling class consisting of influential politicians and businessmen. This agenda encompasses various elements, such as the implementation of a universal electronic currency, the deployment of advanced surveillance systems equipped with cutting-edge technology to monitor and regulate individuals' actions, and the mandatory insertion of RFID tags for identification and commercial use. As a result, the general population will be reduced to powerless peasants, lacking significant influence or autonomy. Now, it's time to confront the elephant in the room. Why do the Illuminati support a one-world government, a one-world religion, depopulation, and even the initiation of World War III, despite the immense human costs involved? From a practical perspective, it is easier to manipulate and control a smaller population. The progress in artificial intelligence and technology has reduced the necessity for a substantial labor force, leading to humans being labeled as useless eaters. However, I believe the primary reason behind the Illuminati's actions is that they are not the ultimate orchestrators of these plans. I propose that the Illuminati is merely following the instructions of entities higher up in the hierarchy, beings that are no longer human but extraterrestrial in nature, driven by their vested interest in taking control of our planet. Additionally, when many individuals in positions of political power deny the existence of a global conspiracy or the Illuminati, they may genuinely believe what they are saying, as it's their minds that have been unconsciously influenced and manipulated. In other words, their psyche is subjected to an invisible form of possession by these extraterrestrial entities. While as humans, the desire for control and wealth may not justify their actions, when viewed from the perspective that ultimate control is being exerted by non-human entities who have no regard for humanity, the puzzle starts to come together. In addition, I discussed the potential inevitability of World War III, drawing from information I encountered, which, regrettably, I cannot currently trace, concerning a battle between good and evil that has already occurred in the astral realm. The astral realm is regarded as a precursor to material manifestation, suggesting that the conflict will ultimately unfold in the physical world. However, as always, let's remain hopeful and keep our fingers crossed. When discussing the end of days, it is crucial to address the potential impacts of solar flares, which could result in a pole shift. Additionally, concerns about asteroid collisions with Earth and the cyclical return of Planet X or Nibiru every 3,600 years are also significant. In future videos, I will delve deeper into these topics and more. If you're interested in learning more, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel.